Here in the northern Rockies, dark winter months are outlasted in basements, dens, and nooks, where kindred souls gather to share intel, swap fly patterns, and relive the memories from seasons past. This gathering spot, known locally as a February room, is the inspiration for this podcast. No matter the season, the door is always open to those with a fly fishing story to tell. Brought to you by CD Fishing USA, the North American distributor for Composite Development's fly rods and fishing accessories. Tech, precision, ingenuity, legacy. Go to cdfishing.us and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Here's your host, Lauren Carnop, and this is the February Room.
Welcome to the February Room today. Our guest is Cristian Dufflocq, co-owner and operator of Estancia de los Rios, a 360,000 acre lodge located in the Chile-Argentina border. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
So Estancia de los Rios is the second largest property in Chile. How did you and your brother come across this property?
Yeah, back in the early 90s, we were flying. We were hired. We had the dream job of being hired to explore places for fishing. So we had a helicopter and a pilot, and we had a float plane and a pilot, and we told them where to go, anywhere we wanted. So we did that for 2 years, and one day we were coming back from fishing on the float plane, and weather came up, so we had to go towards the east, fly towards the east to avoid the storm. And while we were doing that, we looked down and we saw an amazing looking river. And luckily, there was a little village there, and there was an airstrip, and this float plane was amphibian. It had wheels as well. So we landed, and the river was, a couple of hundred yards from the airstrip. So we started fishing, and it was just incredible. It was just unbelievable, and it was sort of like off the route that we usually flew. This is in Patagonia, north of Coyhaique, the main city of Chilean Patagonia. So later that year, when we finished our exploration program, we came back by land. We drove and we camped around, and we figured out who was the owner of the property, and we got in contact with them. And then we continued exploring this for 3 years, the property, and then we decided that we had enough knowledge to start a fishing lodge. And so that's how we started. Yeah, we've been operating since '94.
When you got off the helicopter and checked out the water, you said you went fishing and it was amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
So we were east of the Andes, which is very strange for Chile, because Chile, on the eastern border of the country, is the continental divide. So the waters flowing to the Pacific Ocean to the west are all Chile. And it has a few exceptions, and this ranch, the whole upper drainage of the river, was actually an exception, because it's, as I told you, this river flows from the east to the west and goes through the Andes Mountains, which is very strange, but there is a sort of like a gap there that was carved by the glaciers. So the continental divide in this part of Chile is further east towards the Atlantic. And this, being in the eastern side of the Andes, it's a drier area. It has less precipitation. It's very similar to here in Montana, where we are in Missoula right now. Very similar precipitation. The altitude of the ranch is about 2,100 feet above sea level. It's not that high. And so it was sunnier than in the temperate rainforest in the western side. So there were prolific hatches, a lot of terrestrials, and excellent dry fly fishing. And that is why we're there. We're there because it is one enormous property, and you have the luxury of not seeing another soul in an entire day when you're fishing. There's probably five cars that go through by the road on any given day. So it's really fantastic in that respect, and has remained like that for over 25 years since we've been there. When you're there, you really feel like, gee, this looks like Montana, or Wyoming, and it is really true. It's you have the mountains, of course, semi-arid and beautiful rivers and spring creeks and lakes all over the place. Solitude, of course. For example, the trout, brown trout mainly in this drainage. Then you have the insects which these trout feed on, which are they are mayflies, caddis, and stoneflies, and lots of hoppers and other beetles, which are important. So it is a lot of similarity. There is a lot of similarity when you look at it in a broad spectrum. When you go, you get more specific, looking at the flowers, and looking at the species of the trees and the birds. Yeah, you see a lot of the largest bird on Earth today, which is the condor. You see very often you're fishing and the condors are on top of it. Yeah, and then the fish, they behave in a slightly different way because there's lack of anglers. I'm not saying that they do spook. They're always looking up above. They know that dangers come from up above. So if you're not careful, they're going to spook. But they're more forgiving and not as selective as they are in general here in Montana and North America.
Do you have like a really memorable fish that you've caught in Chile?
Oh yeah. It's I have many stories, but one that I always treasure, for being so exciting, is that I was guiding a lady. We were fishing with dry fly fishing with a number 5 rod, 3x tippet. So we were going upstream, and then to the corner of my eye, I saw a flash, very close to the shore on a grassy bank. And then I turned while she was casting. I turned and looked to the place, and sure enough, I saw 18-inch brown sipping some insects. It was, I think at that time, like a caddisfly. So we were using a hopper, a parachute hopper, tan color. So I said to her, cast over there to the bank. And then she gave a couple of casts, nothing happened. And then the third cast, she puts it in, and the fly does not float. It sinks. The fly sinks, and when she's retrieving, she catches the fish. And then, okay, nice, and then the fish starts pulling, and very quickly we realized that it wasn't the 18-incher. It was something way bigger, and it was just taking off upstream, very fast taking line, and we had to chase the fish. And we could see that like 100 yards above there was a big riffle and big rocks, and the fish went all the way there to taking into the backing, and we have to chase the fish. And then decided when we were there, fortunately they decided not to go through the rapids, through the big rocks, because they would have been impossible to chase. Then came down again. This took back and forth thing of us chasing the fish, because we had the very thin tippet. Now 3x was ridiculous, and then the number 5 rod was, we couldn't put any pressure. So we could see the fish at the end. We could see that it was over 30 inches. My guess it could be, give or take, 3 inches, 5 inches. But anyway, it was very thick in the shoulders and going into the river, because the head of the fish would not come up. And so we had to, it was not tired, but we knew that we had to hurry things up a little bit, not to hurt the fish, and also to have some chance of catching. So I took my net, and as soon I touched the tail, and the fish took off. And this time, the line, he went under a log and snapped everything. You know, so the fish got away. The fish got away, but it's some of I don't know, the stories of large beautiful fish that get away. To me, they're some of the best, and it remains in my mind. And this story has a lot of the unexpected, a surprise element. And but we were really happy. I mean, she did an amazing job. So that was one of my more memorable stories.
I think a lot of people who are probably listening is like, okay, is he in Chile right now? But you're actually here in Missoula, Montana. Can you give us a little bit of background about your story and what brings you to Chile and Missoula, Montana?
We came to live, got a green card in 2008. And being myself in the travel business and in fly fishing, I wanted to come here because most of my clients, our guests, come from the United States. And I've been here many times. And the reason why I came was not sort of like a business reason, but it was a family thing. I wanted my two daughters to have education here in the States. I was not happy with what the alternatives were in the place that I lived in Chile, in Puerto Varas. It's a small town. So for for us really to get better education for our daughters, we need to go to the big city. Santiago is a 6-7 million people with lots of the air is not that good, and it's an enormous metropolis, and we didn't want to make that change, and so we decided to come here. And it turned out for the best because is we have, as you know, opposite seasons. So I get to sample 2 summers per year, and it's pretty an amazing luxury. So that's how we got to. And my wife went to the university.
Well, it's pretty lucky that you never get to really be part of the February months where it's just dark and gloomy in Missoula, Montana. I have to say I'm very jealous of that opportunity to go back and forth. Has fishing always been in your blood? Like, how did you get involved in fly fishing?
Yeah, it's through my family. It's my father. He started first fishing lodge in Chile in 1964 when he was 24 years old, and he was an enthusiastic fisherman. And then he started guiding people when he was probably in his early 20s. And then at the end, he decided that I need to go and look for a place. And he explored Chile in those years, and finally found a place and bought it. It was 10 acres for $5. uh, and so he built this lodge, and it was the beginning for two rooms, 4 guests. And so when I was born, when I was aware, the fly fishing has always been there, really, and streams and lakes and fishing. I was very fortunate, really, to born in a place like that. Kumilawe, the lodge, is no longer accepting taking guests. My father takes a few of his very best friends. He's retired now, but he doesn't guide. There was no guiding in those days. No guiding. It was unless you had to float a river, then you had a boatman, but not an actual guide. So that was the way they did it in those days. So I started guiding at the lodge, my dad's lodge, and then we started, as I said, exploring for places to fish. People from Chile and from all other parts of in the world, they looked at us as consultants to explore places, or to verify that the fishing conditions of a place they liked were acceptable, were good, stuff like that. So we've been doing that for a long time. And at the end, when we found the ranch, as I said, by flying and later going back, we decided that it was a very unique spot. The 380,000 acres in the private property. You don't find them every day. Plus, the ranch, they lease 160,000 acres from the government on a reserve. So the area, it's in excess of 500,000 acres. I have to be very careful because people think that I'm exaggerating sometimes, but it is true that there's different weather patterns inside the ranch. It's very large. So there's a more rainy area and a drier area as you go to the east, and there's of course the mountains to the west, and with much more vegetation and different topography, and it's flatter towards the east, open. So there's a lot of diversity being close to the mountains.
Well, with such a vast property, have you ever had any experiences that were probably a little bit nail biting?
In trouble because of isolation, you mean?
Yes.
No, there's funny things that have happened. Really, we're cautious. We never go alone to places that are far away. And when we go on an expedition on an unknown area, we tell people at the lodge the plan. One time I do remember a funny story because the ranch is very close. East, one of the borders, the eastern border, is the Argentine border, the border with Argentina. So one time we wanted to go to a specific lake, and we were driving around with four-wheelers and looking for trails, and we saw the lake at a distance. And so we started walking, and when we met this person, and he started talking to us with a different accent, and we realized that we were not in Chile. We were in Argentina. We had crossed the border unknowingly. We just said hello, we fished the lake, and realized that the lake that we've seen in satellite pictures was not in Chile but in Argentina, so it wasn't inside the ranch, and we went back. And so it was a really funny story by going to another country, unknowing, just by trying to explore.
So for you, what makes Estancia de los Rios, other than the lands that you kind of described, why is it so special to you?
Well, I think that there are less and less places in the world where you can fish in solitude and silence, and I think that is what that makes it special. The fact that you're fishing, dry fly fishing, you're going upstream most of the times, and you look at the sand and you don't see tracks, of anybody. So you know that it's totally virgin water, and these fish have been there probably unfished for a couple of weeks, because we have a huge amount of, probably in excess of 100 miles if you add all of the streams and rivers apart. So that is the reason. The reason is you're not competing with other anglers, and you don't have that in the back of your mind where you think that, oh, this water was fished before, or somebody spooked the fish.
With that much fishing, pretty much 24/7 kind of lifestyle, does fishing ever to you seem boring?
No. Of course, never boring. I see fishing in a different way. I like to guide. I love guiding. I love fishing by myself. I choose very specific situations, and I end up guiding. If I go with my wife, for example, I end up guiding her, and we go with two rods, and soon enough, my rod is all reeled in, and I don't even have a fly. I'm very excited, making her happy, sort of like. So no, because I think fishing, like many other outdoor activities, like hunting, skiing, even sailing, what it does to you is you sort of like become more aware of nature, of certain aspects of nature. For fishing in particular, you are always aware: is the water clear? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it windy? Are there insects out? What is the structure? You're unconsciously looking for all of that reading the water. And if you go outside one day, you are always aware of if it's windy or not, if the bugs are out or not. And so with time, when you are in the water, I think a fisherman with experience, you see like a book with lots of pages, so it's never boring.
Well, and especially with your place in Estancia de los Rios, you have 360,000 acres. Have you fished everything over there, or are you finding new places every time you go out in the water?
We haven't fished all of it. There's corners that are far away. We need to go on horse. There's no roads. Probably, I don't know, 3-4 hours, something like that. But we discovered, for example, the main river. It made a turn to the north and went north. I don't know, 20 miles, 25 miles. But in the middle of that stretch, there was some big falls, so there were no trout. Probably in a good 15, 20 miles of river above the falls. Although the falls it was a series of falls. So we discovered stuff like that. For example, there's another aspect that is by walking the main river all the time with clients. You see like a small tributary coming in, and you see this one. It's big enough to make it interesting fishing, and you follow that one. But there were some really small ones, which by just hiking around, they were small down below, but they were really large up above, which is because when they reached the main valley, these streams or rivers, they sunk into the gravel. The flow of water sunk, and by the time it came to the river where we see them, they were small and we were overlooking them. But when we went up, they were fantastic rivers to fish.
Do you have any memorable guests that you fished with before?
Oh yes, we had the fortune of fishing with Jack Hemingway, and I met Jack at my dad's place. They were really good friends with my father. He came to my father's lodge in the first time. It's 1974, 1975, and then until much later, probably in the 90s. So it was in excess of 20 years. At the end, he was coming probably for a month to Chile. He had a car in Chile and stayed with us for a month. And then, so he's a little background. Well, apart from being the son of Ernest Hemingway, he was a superb fisherman. Really, as a person, really interesting, very nice. Most interestingly, he parachuted behind enemy lines in France because he spoke perfect French, and when he parachuted, he was carrying a fishing rod. So he used fishing as a way of disguising himself, because in those days, in the resistance and there was lack of food, and people were fishing for a livelihood. They were fishing for food, so it was a way of becoming a local, if you will. He was captured, and he escaped. Later, he escaped into Switzerland because he could wade the stream. So he waded a really very fast stream into Switzerland, and so fishing was entangled in all of his life, really. So, and Jack, when we started at the lodge at the ranch, Estancia de los Rios, he came a couple of times and fished with us. Yeah, he was an amazing fisherman. He presented my father with the fly rod that Ernest Hemingway used here in Idaho and also in Spain when he was writing For Whom the Bell Tolls. My father gave me this rod, and when I came to the United States, I gave it back to him because I didn't want to travel with the rod, So yeah, this is one of the very memorable guests, that we have encountered in our life.
What you said in the beginning, that you like guiding a lot more than fishing, And kind of listening to your story with Jack Hemingway, it seems that maybe it's because of the stories that you get to connect with the guest and learn more about them. So is that pretty true?
Yes. All in all, fishermen are excellent people. Not because I am a fisherman, but and when you are guiding, people are having fun. So they're in a situation where it's a positive situation, a fun situation, and we had guests that have been fishing with us for close to 30 years every year. Some guests live here in Montana, very, very close, and they've been our first clients ever fishing with us, and then they're going again. So because I think that when you're fishing, there's a lot of barriers that go down, and that is why because it's not important who you are in society or how much wealth you own, what language you speak. You're there, and you are two people fishing, and there's an exchange of information. And in a way, fishing is a way of meditation. It cleanses your mind.
Absolutely, which is, unfortunately at this time with COVID-19, I think there's a lot of how do we get back to our roots with nature with a lot of these restrictions. How is Estancia de los Rios working through all of these COVID-19 restrictions? Is there much you guys can do? Are you taking new clients?
Yeah, we are taking clients. We are taking clients that we have some reservations. They're not as many as usual. I think we're going to have a lot of last minute reservations. People are worried about what's going on right now, and they're not thinking about. There's many uncertainties, but we wanted to take some uncertainties out of the equation. So now, for example, we that when people secure a date with a deposit payment, we are requiring in 50 instead of 50%, we're requiring 1/3, and we're also making the deposits that are refundable, not refundable, but the deposits can apply to a 100% credit towards a future visit. So if you cancel, you don't lose the deposit.
So if people want to reach out and they want to get this in the books, what's the best way for them if they want to book a trip with Estancia de los Rios?
Yeah, they could go to my website andthisjourneys.com, drop me a line or write to me to my cdufflocq@gmail.com.
Yeah, and also you have your beautiful, wonderful, smart wife, Anne Marie, who also can help out with assisting if you ever see her in Missoula, Montana as well.
Absolutely, yeah. She's my partner in all of this as well. And she's very enthusiastic and good fisher woman.
Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. We will be getting on the river soon.
Excellent. Thank you. And we'll be in touch.
For the inside scoop on the fly patterns we've discussed with our guest, check our blog for Flies of the February Room. If you would like to enter the February Room, shoot us an email at info@cdfishing.us. Also, remember to subscribe, share, and, if we've earned it, give us those 5 stars. Thanks for dropping by, and remember to go fishing.